Hello everyone, Ember here and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'd like to do a very different kind of video as to what I'd usually do, and in this one I would like to take a look back on base set. So base set is pretty infamous for a variety of key reasons. It was the first set, of course, Q in the title, but you know, it is the first set and it was the first format in the TCG, which makes it really interesting to look back on and basically compare modern cards to base set cards and see just how much has changed. And there's also a lot of key differences between current standard and base set, so we'll go into them as we go through the video. But basically some key facts about base set is that base set did not feature all of Gen 1. There's actually several Pokemon missing from base set, and they were introduced in the several sets that came out afterwards. The rules were also different for trainers, since there was no categories like there are now. So basically there was no supporters or items or stadiums, there was just trainer. And you could play as many as you wanted during your turn, which is kind of broken, but it meant players had to be careful not to burn through resources too quickly because, of course, if you can just play as many research or Pokemon breeder in this instance as you wanted during your turn, then of course it meant that you could overextend and you wouldn't have those resources for the rest of the game, I should say. Also, some effects you might recognize, such as Rare Candy coming from Pokemon Breeder over here. So this was literally put a stage 2 evolution onto a basic, and it couldn't be evolved. Well, it could only be used when you could play this card in any other time. So it basically means that you still can use on the first turn, but still a very powerful effect, and still basically acted like a Rare Candy. So yeah, everything was a trainer, and just to point out just quite how broken this was, there was cards like Computer Search, which did actually get reprinted in the XY era, well, black and white, as a spec card, so you could only play one copy in your deck. And I think a lot of players are speculating that we will see a reprint of Computer Search when they bring back A-Specs in 2024. But basically, for those of you who don't know what this card does, it is very simply a discard 2 cards from your hand, so kind of like Ultra Ball. But instead of searching your deck for Pokemon, you just search your deck for any one card. And this was a 4 of in like every deck because it's just so wild. Of course, because there is quite low recovery, I would say, in base set, playing this card was a bit painful sometimes. And, you know, reaching for the second card, I think this was a quote used in another video actually about base set. Basically, this card was quite taxing on some decks and it was a bit brutal to use, but still a very important card nonetheless to make everything consistent. And then, of course, there was Professor's Oak, the original Professor's Research, discard your hand and draw 7. And since you could play as many of these in your turn as you like, you could just probably deck out turn 1, actually. You could just do research into research into research into research, assuming, you know, you didn't prize any or you didn't discard any of them at the start of the game with other researchers. But yeah, a very broken situation with Professor Oak. There's also Bill, which was just draw 2 cards, which admittedly seems a bit weak by nowadays standards. You know, draw 3 is generally not good enough to be played on its own. You have to deal with other stuff like discard a stadium or disrupt your opponent. But still, Bill was very good because it's just draw 2, right? It's just more cards in the hand, more stuff to discard with Computer Search, and of course finding more resources on those turns where you don't want to be playing a Professor's Oak. So yeah, everything being a trainer was kind of broken. There was also this infamous deck called Haymaker, which was pretty broken as well. And Haymaker in of itself isn't like a very scary deck with scary Pokemon. It's not like Mew VMAX paired up with Genesect or anything that crazy, even though Haymaker was probably a lot more broken than Mew VMAX ever will be in Standard. But basically, back in the day, Haymaker was a combination of a few Pokemon, like Hitmonchan being the main one, but there was also Electabuzz, sometimes Magmar, I think, but mainly Scyther actually, and Farfetch'd, so a bit of a mistake in my presentation here. But basically, these Pokemon don't seem that powerful at a first glance, but why they are powerful is that they all kind of hit for a decent weakness type, and they all hit for pretty decent damage. So Hitmonchan doing 20 damage for single energy was actually really impressive back in the day, because HP was so low. In fact, I think the most relevant high HP in the game, was like 130, I think, with Blissey. So having 20 damage for single energy was, of course, pretty powerful stuff. You know, there was potions and things, but still 20 damage for single energy, very strong. And of course, there was stuff like the Surfetch'd, which had resistance to fighting. So you could play Surfetch'd to counter Hitmonchan, but Electabuzz also hits for weakness on Surfetch'd. and then Electabuzz has weakness to Hitmonchan. So it all kind of like goes around in a nice circle. Magmar is just a bit of a weird one, but in all honesty, I love the artwork, so I think I can be forgiven for including Magmar here, even if he wasn't really part of the Haymaker crew. But still, you know, cool Pokemon overall. But yeah, basically more on why Haymaker was so good is that there was a bunch of busted trainers like Superior Energy Retrieval. Sorry, not Retrieval, Removal, which said discard 1 energy attached to one of your own Pokemon, and if you do, you discard 2 energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And why this is so basically disgusting is that Haymaker attackers don't typically use more than 1 or 2 energy, compared to stage 2s like the Blastoise or the Charizard, which would require 3 or 4 energy. So effectively, you're just removing pennies from your Pokemon, you know, it's just nothing. And then you're just massively disrupting your opponent in a big way because there wasn't really a lot of energy ramp at the time. It's basically just like manual attachments. So yeah, I keep wanting to say Superior Energy Retrieval, but it's just not it. It's Super Energy Removal. But yeah, very disgusting broken card. This thing would be filthy broken if it was printed today, but yeah, very busted card. Another one that could maybe come back as an ace spec actually. I didn't think about that, but yeah, very scary card. There's also stuff like Plus Power that could increase your damage by plus 10 for the turn, which did allow you to KO stuff like Squirtle, and of course you could find this with computer search, so it was possible to get a donk with Hitmonchan and stuff, so that's kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, Pokemon like Squirtle and Charmander, very low HP, 40 or 50 most of the time, and you know, it just meant that you could KO a lot of Pokemon with Jab, essentially, and build up towards Special Punch. So yeah, Haymaker, pretty good. There's also some really broken disruption in base set, so it's not just Haymaker, it's just overall. So we have Last, which says, you and your opponent show each other your hands. Okay, that's quite nice. Then shuffle all the trainer cards from your hands into your decks. What? That's just wild. So it basically just removes any energy removals, any plus powers, any computer searches, any draw power basically. That you know, we say goodbye to that. So it just means that Haymaker, which is already a wildly efficient deck, can now just say, okay, I've got all the stuff I need in play, which is basically just 3 or 4 basics and a couple of basic energy in play. Time to play a Last, and now you have nothing, basically. So that's why Last was so broken. Also, Superior Energy Removal, as we mentioned before, extremely broken card. Energy Removal isn't quite as broken, but it's still just choose one of your energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon and discard it. So this is basically just Crushing Hammers, but you don't have to flip a coin. So Crushing Hammers has been a very strong card for a while, maybe not so much right now in Standard, but certainly it's had its moments in the Soul and Shield era, and certainly in X and Y, and especially Black and White actually. But Energy Removal was that, but, well, that was a very weird pronunciation of that. Yeah, that, but you didn't have the coin flip. So yeah, extremely broken disruption overall, yeah, pretty crazy. There was also some more broken trainers, like everything was just broken in the set, by the way, in case you couldn't realize. But yeah, Gust of Wind, Scoop Up Net, and Item Finder. Gust of Wind was Gust as a trainer card, so this is essentially just boss's orders if it was an item, effectively. Scoop Up, which is just Scoop Up Net, but it's a basic Pokemon. And yeah, I think it's just for a basic Pokemon, right? And returns basic Pokemon card to your hand. Yeah, okay, so you get the basic back, but you have to discard the stage 2 and stuff if you use this on a stage 2. Okay, that's interesting. But it was essentially like a max potion for Haymakers. So yeah, Scoop Net still kind of broken. Also got Item Finder, which is another broken card. Discard 2 of your other cards from your hand in order to put a trainer card from a discard pile back into your hand. So you could get back Gust, you could get back Scoop Up Net. You could also get back Lass or Superior Energy Removal. You get back Plus Power. Yeah, Item Finder also kind of broken. There was some other decks, though. Surprisingly enough, there was some other decks that did compete, which is quite nice. And this only increased as time went on. It would be a while, I think, before Haymaker was finally kicked off the pedestal, really. But there was actually quite a number of decent decks in base set, which is kind of cool. There was stuff like Venusaur Chansey, where you basically just moved all the energy off of Chansey to then fully heal it with like potions and stuff, which is kind of cool. There's also Zapdos and Electrode, whereby Electrode would KO itself in order to charge up Zapdos. You could also use stuff like Blastoise, which was the original Rain Dance, in order to accelerate energy to stuff like Gyarados and Articuno, which is really cool. And personally, I think my favorite deck, honestly, from base set. But yeah, just some examples of other decks. There's also like an Arcanine Electrode deck, I think. But yeah, I just picked these 3 out because I think these are like the most iconic, really, out of the original decks, along with Haymaker. But yeah, I'm sure there's other examples you could choose from. Words are just terrible today. But yeah, some closing thoughts at the end of this video. I really wish base set Fossil was added to TCG Live as a game mode. I think it'd be really fun to play with the original cards and all the broken rules. I just think it would be a great idea, to be honest, if this was on TCG Live. 151 is kind of cool, but I miss the old school artwork so much, like this Gyarados, for example. The art was used for the set evolutions, however, so it's understandable that they don't want to use like the old artwork again. But still, it would be nice to see this artwork come back. I'm working on my own base set recreation actually for Expanded. This has been an ongoing project for like the last year because I keep adding to it and removing stuff, but let me know if you'd like to see that in a video. But yeah, this has been Emma Power. Very different kind of video today. A lot of mistakes made towards the end, I get that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.